Limpopo Premier Stan Mathabatha has reshuffled his cabinet a month after being elected as provincial chairperson of the ANC. Dickson Masemola has been moved to the Department of Public Works, while Masemola was Mathabatha's, was his challenger in a conference that was held last month, as I was saying, described by President Cyril Ramaphosa as well organized. He was speaking Ramaphosa in his capacity as ANC president. Let's speak about this further with political analyst Dr Metji Makgoba from the University of Limpopo. Good to have you on the program, sir. This was not an unexpected reshuffle, was it?
It was very expected because I think Mathabatha is already thinking about the future. He's involved in what we call permanent campaigning, which involves the use of state resources to fight political battles. So the move is going to really disintegrate Masemola because in his new portfolio, he's going to be thinking about consulting with his new colleagues instead of using his old position to think about how can he come back from this position. So what's really happened is really expected because Mathabatha is marking his territory and he's showing who's the boss. But more importantly, this is a tried and tested strategy of permanent campaigning in which political figures use their power in government to settle political scores.
Well, his office, in trying to explain this reshuffle, basically said that the executive was moved around in order to improve service delivery and good governance. Is there any truth to that from where you're standing?
I think that's another excuse that it has been given in the past, that we are reshuffling cabinet because we want to improve service delivery. If Mathabatha was convinced that Bushielo and Masemola were incompetent, he would have expelled them from their offices completely. But because this is a factionalized decision, he has to find some sort of a strategy or justification why he has done so, and to cover up the factional nature of the position. But it is a factional decision, and it is meant to marginalize Masemola and to disintegrate his position in the ANC.
And how weakened then are the two of them, Bushielo and Masemola, now as people who ran against basically the Premier in the conference of the ANC last month? Does the move, yes, as you say, they've not been removed completely from the Executive Council, but are they weakened at all?
I think they are weakened because remember that when you inheritment MEC, you establish a network of influence, a network of communication, people that you can trust, people that you can work closely with. And in this context, Bushielo and Mathabatha are going to spend time trying to re-establish themselves in the new department. And time is going to be ticking up. Mathabatha and his cronies are going to be politically ahead of these two people. And they have actually been neutralized because now these two don't have power in terms of the Premier who can make decisions. And they have to look at what the Premier has to do. And in this case, he has acted upon them, and they have to leverage what they have. But they're actually in a very difficult position. I don't see them coming back from this one.
Internal ANC politics aside, right, how would you assess the ability of the Limpopo government to deliver the best quality services to the people of the province, whether in urban or rural areas?
I think the province has struggled in the last 20 years, and the struggle continues to go on. If you check, unemployment in the province is quite high. And that's where the justification that the reshuffle was about service delivery is quite laughable, because Limpopo is one of the most disintegrated provinces in terms of development. There's water scarcity. Mining companies are doing as they wish. There are a lot of governance issues in which the government has abdicated the political responsibility of governance and development. And when somebody uses the discourse of good corporate governance, you're asking yourself, why is that? Because we don't see the presence of government in the Limpopo in terms of what development is concerned, whether it's mining, whether it's agriculture, whether it's infrastructure or road and infrastructure.
How much do you think then that these service agreements that the Premier intends to sign with the MECs that we're hearing about from his office, how much do you think that's going to help as far as holding politicians accountable for promises made while in office?
I think it's very difficult to separate ANC politics from all these struggles because, firstly, we have what we call the gift culture, in which people who support the Premier at the political level of the ANC are looking to have positions in government. But as you said, that aside, I think that's a very good PR exercise from the Premier. But remember that the problems in Limpopo province are quite structural. So they are not going to be fixed by signing memorandum of understanding. What we need state interventions as far as governance is concerned, and that is quite absent. He can come up with these all managerial strategies to show symbolic compliance in terms of as far as governance is concerned, but political issues on the ground are there, issues of corruptions are there, and the weaker state capacity to deal or to respond to crisis in Limpopo is still there. So once Mathabatha deals with the structure of governance in totality in the province, these issues of memos or service agreement are quite symbolic gestures, but they are not going to lead to larger structural issues that Limpopo so need in order to develop as a province.
You and I, Dr. Makgoba, are speaking about changes to the provincial executive, right? But in her recent release of a report on the performance of municipalities, the Auditor General did give positive feedback about how Limpopo is doing, but it did come with a warning about an over-reliance on consultants. And I wonder if that speaks to a lack of skill across spheres or just an easy way out, shall we say, by bringing in someone external to do the work instead of capacitating municipalities and perhaps even departments.
That's a very key issue that is affecting the government in general, and Limpopo in particular, because outsourcing skills is actually a shortcut to governance. The things that the state has to do, they have to go outsource elsewhere. And what does that do? It weakens the state as the fulcrum of development, because now the culture of development is outsourced elsewhere. It's not the state that is running development. It's actually multinational corporations that are doing their work on behalf of the state. What does that do? It means that the government is not growing. It means that capacity is not built. If we are serious about building this country, we need to ensure that the government is able to function maximally and optimally with the resources that it has. But this issue of outsourcing is actually the policy of the ANC, that they are running a neoliberal project. And neoliberalism is seen in how government outsource political responsibilities elsewhere. Instead of just doing business within the government, they have to call a multinational corporations to do so. That's not surprising. It's what the ANC stands for. And in terms of capacity building, that's where the government is lacking. And until Mathabatha says, now I need to hire important people in government to deal with the skills issue, that's where the issue of service signing memos can carry some water. But at the moment, it's just a symbolic gesture that is so tokenistic.
Dr. Metji Makgoba, thank you so much. Political analyst speaking to us from the University of Limpopo. We'll let you get back to work. I see you're just outside your office there.